Bank of Ghana has relaxed some of the rules it introduced in February this year to save the cedi from falling further against major foreign currencies, especially the dollar. So what prompted the central bank to relax its forex measures, which have been in place since February?
We had planned and we were implementing it when the Cedi Accord came. So it is not a pressure on us. When you introduce something, you have to go back to the market to assess how it is impacting the market.
Well, tonight on today's big story, we find out if the forex measures have in any way helped arrest the free fall of the Ghana cedi. My name is Prince Minka, and this is today's big story. Welcome to the program. Now, one of the rules introduced by the central bank in February prohibited customers from making over-counter withdrawals of more than 10,000 US dollars without proof of travel.
This particular revision that you've done, it lends credence to the fact that even though you would say that these measures we introduced were not exactly to halt the fall of the cedi or the depreciation of the cedi, it turns out that there are those who say it actually hurt it. So you say that no, we didn't intend to get these into stop, but it actually hurt it and backfired. Do you concede?
Those are speculation. They have not provided any empirical evidence to support it. I have provided substantive evidence to show that the pace of depreciation is slowing down. So if they have counter evidence, other than you guys were talking about speculation, what we want to stop speculation. This is speculative. What is the proof? Show me the proof that it has hurt it. I've shown you, I've given you the evidence that the pace of depreciation has slowed down. From 7%, the peak of 7.8% in January, as at May, it had depreciated in the month of May by 2.7%.
What would be the cumulative?
Then if I'm doing that, I have to have all the maths. I don't have the list here, but it's there.
7% in...
I don't know. February, because there are some percent. Otherwise, it was 7 point something, 5 point something in February, 4 point something in March, 3 point something in April, and 2 point something in. So it adds about a point something. When you add them, I don't want to be doing the rounding up now.
And that's the head of financial stability at the Bank of Ghana. That's Dr. Benjamin Alma speaking there. And of course, he was speaking to my colleague Israel Lai, who asked him if the revision of the directives of the Bank of Ghana had in any way hurt the Ghana cedi. We're going to get more perspective to this as we're going to be speaking to some financial analysts shortly on today's big story. But before we speak to Sydney Casely Hayford, let's go a bit back to the press conference they organized today, where they much talked about issue regarding the counter withdrawals also came up.
What would you tell someone? Maybe I used to have maybe $100,000 in my account. Because of these revisions, I go back, do the thousand, and take everything out.
It's your money. If you want to take it, we can't force you.
But then this measure has failed in this revision. Would then take us back.
Why are you stressing failed? Listen, what we have observed is individuals who have liquidity, cash, forex, are no longer, and would like to have access to them, are no longer taking them to the banks. So we allow you access. Is this a bad thing? So now we are saying, go and put you to the bank. Whenever you need some, you can go and withdraw some. If we say don't go and withdraw, you have an issue. When we say go and withdraw, you say we are taking us back. We are allowing you access to your money. And then we are not saying, you can't just go and say, I'm withdrawing all my 50,000, give it to me. If you don't have that access. If you want to transfer it, provide the relevant documentation. So those who travel with 10,000, they come back with, say, 2,000, they put it there. When somebody is traveling, I'm traveling today and you want to give me $1,000 to buy a laptop for you, you should be able to go and withdraw $1,000 to do that. These are some of the considerations. See, that is why we consult. These are the minor issues that come up. These are so trivial that you may have overlooked, but it's important to people.
And so those are the questions begging for answers. Exactly how will the revision of the directives change the issues regarding how we can resuscitate the Ghana Cedi. We'll be speaking to Sydney Kingsley-Hayford shortly. But let me just take you back to some of the issues Doc was raising a while ago, which has got to do with counter withdrawals of the US dollars. For instance, the Bank of Ghana mentions that without prejudice to the limit of 10,000 US dollars withdrawal per travel and the 10,000 US dollar annual transfer without documentation, over-counter cash withdrawals from FCA as well as FEA would be permitted up to a limit of 1,000 US dollars or its equivalent per transaction in foreign currency. We're joined now by Sydney Kingsley-Hayford. He's a financial analyst. And good evening to you, Sydney. Thank you very much for joining us on today's big story.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing good. But did it come as a surprise to you, as per the press conference organized by the Bank of Ghana, which they sought to revise some of the directives that they had issued when the issue of the fall of the cedi had come to this country? Did it come to you as a surprise?
I won't say that it is a surprise. I was hoping that it would be like this. So I am quite pleased that it turned out this way. We've been talking about all of this and hoping that the bank would hear some of the things we were suggesting, and that all of these restrictions, if not a majority of them, would be removed. And I think that the bank has done a lot more than expected, because apart from actually reversing some of the regulations that they had put in place, they have also gone a little beyond in other ways by extending other liberal transactions, which should all help towards restoring some kind of a balance in the currency.
But what for you, going back to the earlier directive they issued, what for you accounted for that? And looking at the turn that they've taken, or the turn of events, and some of the issues that have panned out at the press conference where some of the directives have had to be revised, what for you could have triggered the earlier one?
Well, you mean what brought about the actual restrictions that they imposed? Oh, well, I think that the bank certainly, it was a knee-jerk reaction, and it was a panic reaction to something which they perceived to be a pattern, that in the first quarter of every year there seems to be a run on the cedi, and that we get a sliding, a downward scale. So I think they overreacted, and in doing so, they also did not communicate exactly what it is they wanted to do properly, and that resulted in the kind of regulations that they brought in. Luckily, it's been going on for about 4 months now, and they have found that that was just an overstep in what they actually could have done, and they could have maybe done things a little differently. So that's what I thought happened. I think it was an overreaction to a situation which caused panic in the financial system, and this is what they did.
And this perhaps created a pressure on them for them to perhaps come out this way. But what good would that be for the resuscitating process of the Ghana Cedi?
Well, I'm not sure I quite understand your question, but I think that we did have a lot of conversation at the National Economic Forum at Cedi, and I was fortunate enough to be in the same group as the bank of the governor of the bank, as well as other persons who've been involved in the central bank issues for quite some time. So we did discuss this issue quite extensively, and I think that was also a promise which the governor made before we left, that they would certainly assess the situation and they were going to come out with some kind of a statement. And we did give a lot of advice, and I think a lot of what was said has actually been translated into this new decision.
But would you be would you side with those who would say that this new directive that are being issued was actually born out of the pressure that was piled on the central bank?
Well, there certainly has been a lot of pressure, and it would it would be a little farcical if we don't take some credit for what has happened. The Bank of Ghana cannot say that it never heard anything and nobody said anything and nobody advised them to do anything. There certainly has been a lot of advice. So we cannot ignore the fact that advice has been in public and that a lot has been said. So they have certainly taken things on board. And it is not only us, but I think they've also listened to international traders and international organizations. And they have realized that maybe the over-tightness which they created was not the best, and they have done something about it.
Now, going back to my question, which you didn't really understand, I was actually asking you if you think this, posturing of the Bank of Ghana is likely to help resuscitate the Ghana cedi, because that's basically what a number of people here in the country are looking out for.
Well, I think that with what they have done, some confidence will be restored. But you see, it takes a little while for people to adjust. And there's always the suspicion when you do something like they did, so fast and so hard, that people don't feel like as if this is real. So it will take a little time for it to come through. And now we are all going to have to be a little patient, try the system, and make sure that we can gain some stability back. And that stability will also depend on how we, the public, absorb the new changes and how we respond to the changes by either putting our currency back into the system, putting money back into our forex currency accounts and our forex exchange accounts, and then abiding by the rules as laid down by the law. If we did that and everything stabilized, then we should find that, give or take another 8 months, maybe a year, everybody will start feeling a lot more comfortable and we will get back to normalcy. But it is not something that is going to happen in the next month, 2 or 3 months. It will take a much longer time than that before people become confident that we will not again be asked to string another way and destroy things. People's money is at the core of their lives, and nobody jokes with things like that. So money is the essential ingredient here, and we have to make sure that people are comfortable that their money is not going to be taken away from them by the stroke of a pen.
And I quite remember some of you, I mean yourself especially, were against the over-dollarization of the Ghanaian economy. Now, let me just bring you to some issues they raised at their press conference, the Bank of Ghana for that matter. They mentioned that exporters of goods and services may receive payment in foreign currency from non-residents. And this, therefore, means that hotels, educational institutions may have to receive payments from non-residents in foreign currency. Now, what does this suggest?
Sorry, what does it?
What does this suggest?
Oh, well, I think it's a good idea. When you go into a new country, it takes a little while to get grips with the currency. The exchange parity and what you're used to is no longer there. You have to keep recalculating. So if you can come into an economy and there's a hotel that is going at $250, $450 a room night, you understand exactly what that means because you're used to it. So it makes it easier to transact. So in that regard, this probably it's a good thing to have all that restored. And I'm sure that people coming from outside will be a lot more comfortable with actually coming and using their currency and making payments as they go along.
But what happened? What then happened to the need for us to encourage the use of the Ghana cedi for transactions?
Well, I've always had an extreme view on that. And I've said in many, many places that we should be allowed to make payments in cedi. But there's no reason why people can't bring in and pay using any currency, but they can exchange their currency at the existing rate at the time on which they do the transaction. I don't see any reason why people can't hold any currency that they want, and that currency can be lodged with their bank. And I still don't see why, in a modern era, we're still having to go through this whole system of the only currency you can hold physically is a cedi. It doesn't make any sense. The whole world has changed. Everything now is being traded. We are trading with China. We're trading with Europe. We're trading with the U.S. We're trading with the U.K. Everybody has a currency of parity exchange. So it doesn't really make any sense to try and force people to use a particular currency. It doesn't bring stability to the currency. Rather, the openness and the liberalism of allowing people to exchange money is what brings stability. And that's what I think we should encourage And I would like to see the banks think outside the box a little bit more and go a lot further now so we can set a pace for other developing economies, especially in West Africa, who would like to copy what we are doing or at least to follow in our footsteps. And I think there's a lot more we can do.
And finally, before I let you go, I'm going to bring in John Gachi shortly. He's also a financial analyst. But let me draw you into another issue regarding foreign currencies, for that matter. The Bank of Ghana states that there's a need to encourage the use of currencies of Ghana's major trading partners, such as the Chinese yuan, which is already available, and instead of the US dollar as the sole settlement currency. Now, for you, Sydney, how is this going to help?
Listen, 2 years ago, I think in 2011, this issue came up, and I did say that we must start taking the yuan as a reserve currency in this country because the pattern of trade has changed. When I said it at that time, a lot of people were up against me, particularly people in the Ministry of Finance and in the central bank, who thought that I was making an impetuous statement. But the fact of the matter is our trade patterns have changed. We're importing a lot more from Asia, so it makes a lot of sense for us to be able to go and buy yuan in our banks and other central banks and take that money outside rather than doing a two-step approach that we buy dollars, we pay a fee and a commission on it, and then we go and change it again into yuan and we lose money again. It doesn't make much sense. So what is being encouraged now is an excellent idea. And I think we should do that for the euro, we should do it for the yuan, we should do it for the dollar, and we should do it for the British pound. These are our main trading partners. And if possible, we should do it for the naira as well, because we trade a lot with Nigeria. So this is what actually drives an economy. The ease of actually having access to currency is very, very important in the way we do business across barriers and the way we are able to import and export into and out of our country.
Very well, Sydney. I want to thank you very much for joining us on today's Big Story. Sydney Kesley-Hayford is a financial analyst speaking to us here. But let me bring in some other issues that were also raised at the press conference organized by the Bank of Ghana. You know already that they've revised their earlier directives as far as the Ghana Cedi is concerned. And this is all aimed at resuscitating the fallen Ghana Cedi. Now, at the press conference, they mentioned that special cases for the energy sector, mining and other support service will be considered on case-by-case basis, as was done before. And the Bank of Ghana says it will issue a notice reflecting these revisions. And they mentioned that any existing measure that is not mentioned in the forthcoming notice shall remain in force. But one other issue Sydney and I was actually talking about a while ago was the encouraging the use of currencies of Ghana's major trading partners, such as the Chinese yuan. And he's not the only one. John Gachi as well, who joined us shortly, has also made that particular point some time ago that there's a need for Ghana to look at that particular direction in as much as we would want to put out their solutions aimed at reviving the fallen Ghana Cedi. Now, let's go back to that particular clip where, the Bank of Ghana debunked that particular claim that it was under any pressure from civil society as well as financial experts to perhaps revise their earlier directive on the Ghana Cedi.
We had planned, and you can't just start to review things and get it the next day. We had planned, and we were implementing it when the Senchi Accord came. So it is not a pressure on us. When you introduce something, you have to go back to the market to assess how it is impacting the market. That's basically what we've done. We plan to go back to the market to see how the measures were affecting the market so that we can reduce I don't want to use your unintended consequence, we reduce the adverse effect and then enhance the positive, the strength of the measures. So basically that is what we've done.
And this is today's Big Story. John Gachi is a financial analyst. He joins us on the phone line. Thank you very much, John Gachi, for joining us on today's Big Story.
Thank you.
Now, let's look at the posturing of the Bank of Ghana today. They have revised the directives they issued earlier on as far as the processes to resuscitate the Ghana cedi is concerned. Now, does it come to you as a surprise?
Well, some of the issues I am not surprised because as part of policy management, when you put in place some policies and you have given a timeline for revision, you revise that bearing in mind the concern expressed by the key stakeholders affected by the policy. I'm not surprised because most of the areas that the revision affected were the areas that importers and exporters and those who transact international trade have complained seriously about. So it means that the Bank of Ghana has actually factored that into the revision process. And that is how a regulator ought to operate.
Now, one other issue that they raised was the need to encourage the use of currencies of Ghana's major trading partners, such as the Chinese yuan. I've heard you on this particular point before. The point they make on this is that this is already available, like the US dollar, and we don't need to concentrate on the US dollar, but we can look elsewhere. Sydney thinks that we can look at the Naira and other trading currencies that we have. How would this help resuscitate the Ghana cedi?
We know that one aspect of the depreciation we have is the excessive demand for foreign currency because our economy is gradually integrating with Asia, especially China and other countries in that sub-region. But most of the people who go into those markets actually carry hard cash by changing their money in foreign currency before taking them along. That is risky and that is very costly for them. And as a result of that, if you introduce the Chinese currency, that means that they are going to be encouraged to use the banking system, and the cross exchange cost that they bear will also go down. That provides convenience to them, and that will also reduce the hot demand for foreign currency for those markets, and thereby actually protecting our currency. But I am surprised at this point the Bank of Ghana is saying that they are going to introduce that because they have stated this clearly about 3 or 4 months ago that they have put in place the Chinese currency that will be rolling out in the Ghanaian market. I think this is the time that they need to intensify their education on the use of that particular currency by those huge number of our Ghanaian traders who actually engage in international transactions in that region. If they are not doing that, I think that is what they should concentrate on to increase the tempo of the education about the new currency that they have increased. Because the volume of trade that is going on between Ghana and China is so huge that if we want to allow people to continue to demand dollar in particular before they go and convert into Chinese currency when they get to China, is very cumbersome, costly, and then inconvenient to our Ghanaian traders.
But John, are we not likely to see the situation where people have dollar accounts, Naira accounts, safer accounts, and how is that going to help when already we know that at a certain point the Bank of Ghana had to, introduce some regulations aimed at dealing with that particular trend?
I don't know where the Naira and all those accounts are coming from, but the point is for currency to be trading in your country, the underlying factor should be the volume of trade and the frequency with which people are engaging in transactions in that currency. If that is the case with Naira, then that is not a problem engaging that also. But no matter how you look at it, when people want to open an account, they open an account because they want to operate with the bank. We need to encourage traders to begin to use the banking system for international transactions. Most of the people who go to Dubai and go to China and the rest, most of them don't use the banking system. They just carry their money and go to China to go and buy things, go to Dubai to go and buy things. That is not what we want to encourage. So I think the Bank of Ghana will provide a leeway by which those accounts could be managed to encourage people to use the banking system rather than use foreign currency along with them, traveling with them, and then actually exposing them to the tariff.
Now, talk about foreign accounts. Let me just bring you into one other issue they raised. You remember back in February, there was this prohibition for customers from making over-counter withdrawals of more than $10,000 US. Now they can withdraw $1,000 US, and that will be done in bets. How do you think this is also going to help as well?
Well, I think you need to also bring the condition that is attached to that. That if you are going to go in for 10,000, then you need to involve your bank in the process. That tells me that if you're looking at the foreign exchange market, it has relation with trading transactions, it has relation with speculation, it has relation with money laundering, etc. So if the reason for which Bank of Ghana introduced this particular measure is emanating from misuse of the process, then the Bank of Ghana still maintains that it doesn't want to allow the misuse of the process to go on, but it wants to actually understand the pain that those engaged in those transactions are facing by limiting the pain for them, provide some leeway, but at the same time ensuring that the integrity of the system by protecting against money laundering, protecting against misuse of the process, it does not go on. That is what I see about that process. And finally, I also think that the Bank of Ghana has actually ensured an important aspect of policy management in the entire review process, by which you understand the difficulties that people are facing, and you assess how you can, in a very small way, provide some respite to those people in the process. I think that is what Bank of Ghana has done.
Now, per all these arrangements and the fact that they've had to do a U-turn, you think it is likely to boost people's confidence in the Ghanaian economy? This will be my final question. A yes or no will do.
Well, we need to pose that question to the exporters, whether they are satisfied or not. But I think that a little bit freedom is better than no freedom at all. So that should help us have some respite for confidence in the economy. But I must indicate clearly that it is wrong for us to be thinking that these measures that the Bank of Ghana has brought are the measures that are going to see the overall strength of the currency.
Very well.
But the Bank of Ghana is just doing it big. There should be complementary effort from other sources in terms of how, looking forward, we are going to stop the cycle of depreciation by increasing and diversifying effectively our exports, controlling our imports, engaging in more productive activity in the country, and controlling fiscal measures that are not conducive for our environment. Those are the things that should be complementary to the effort of Bank of Ghana. So we shouldn't single-handedly see Bank of Ghana as the only institution that is actually mandated at this point in time to bring back strength to our currency.
Very well. I'm going to have to thank you very much, John Gachi, for talking to us on today's Big Story. That's John Gachi, a financial analyst, speaking to us here on today's Big Story. Well, coming up shortly, we get interactive with Marian Toure. Is Cameroon still down by a goal? What's happening? She'll tell us. GN Interactive is next.